Hello everyone, welcome to this month's edition of In the Grove. I'm Sue Heaton and happy to say that next to me this month is
Jeff Frankie.
Good to be with you, Jeff.
It's good to be back together
really,
again.
You look wonderful. We haven't
So
been
do
together.
you.
Oh, thank you.
We've thawed out finally.
Yes,
We've
yes,
been able
it's
to get back
very
out.
nice and-
Spring is near.
Right, and elections are going on in our community,
Yes.
and I understand you are very busy with
I'm
what's
a
going on.
very busy person, but I love being here for this,
Yeah,
so I wouldn't miss it for the
Well, we're
world.
glad that you took time out of your schedule to join in today. Who are you talking with?
Today I'm going to be talking to Police Chief Chuck Walsh and Trustee Pat Feicther, who will be telling us about their trip to Bulgaria as a friendship trip that we've set up to try to get relationships with a town in Bulgaria.
Wow, that sounds very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Lucky them.
Well,
Out
it
of
was
town
kind of
travel.
cold when they went, so we'll see.
So we'll hear about that story.
Yeah.
Well, I have the opportunity to speak to our new director at the Elk Grove Park District, Ben Curcio.
Oh yes, he just took
he's
over.
got
Just started.
he's got a really interesting story to tell how he made his way up from the very bottom.
Well, that's your business when you come up
Yeah,
from the bottom. so
Really knows the whole thing. So we're anxious to get going with our stories today.
let's do it.
We would look forward to being with you. We will be right back with our program.
Welcome back. Today my guests are Police Chief Chuck Walsh and Trustee Pat Feicther. They're here today to tell us about a trip they made to Pernik, Bulgaria, and as a friendship visit to kind of see what the difference is between their town and ours, and maybe we can strike up some kind of friendship agreement. So welcome.
Thank you.
I guess I don't know if a lot of people know anything about Pernik, but maybe you guys can start on how these things kind of started and how they got involved in it.
Well, I'll tell you about from the Elk Grove side. Our mayor about a year ago had a visit from the Consul General of Bulgaria. He came here and told us that Elk Grove Village has a very large number of Bulgarians living here. We didn't know this, and he wanted to get more involved with Elk Grove because of the large Bulgarian population. We found out at the high school that there's classes for the Bulgarian kids in their culture and language on every Saturday. So it was an interesting visit. It was the beginning. They then sent a delegation here from Bulgaria with the mayor of a city called Pernik, their second largest city in western Bulgaria, came here to visit, see Elk Grove, tour around, and we hosted a dinner for them, as you remember.
Right.
And from there, an invitation came from Pernik for us to travel there, a delegation from Elk Grove, to see their city, see what it was like. And we decided that it would be Chief Walsh and myself going there in later January of this past January, and that we'd spend a few days there during their Serva festival, which you'll see examples of on here as we go through these slides that we have from our experience there. Chief, would you want to?
Yeah, just that it was the last weekend in January when you were all in the polar vortex. Pat and I were in Bulgaria, which was a little bit warmer, believe it or not. So
I was wondering, the climate there is like ours, basically? Is it? I mean,
similar.
they have their winter the same time as we do, but
Yeah.
do they normally get really cold there? I mean, you would think it's near Russia and Siberia and anything else.
Yeah, it is the Eastern European area, and it was about the same. I think our hardest part, us trying to figure it out, was the difference between Celsius and Fahrenheit.
Oh, right, right.
And they had snow on the ground the whole time we were there, but not a lot, just some.
Okay.
But it wasn't bad, it wasn't bad at all. And they're right near the Black Sea. I think that moderates
might
things
moderate
a little
it, too.
bit, yeah.
Okay. And now, is it a port? Is this town a port, or is
No.
it inland?
No, it's inland.
Okay.
And after we arrived in Sofia, which is the capital, we took a ride. In fact, our translator met us at the airport, and she was with us the entire time we were there, because very few people would speak English over there, so we needed that translator desperately. And they also had a driver for us,
Really?
a fellow that would take us around, and he couldn't speak any English, but again, the translator would take care of it for us. The chief here actually picked up on some Bulgarian before we went over there. I was very impressed with that, and when he was when we were over there, he was learning even more Bulgarian. I'll tell you, it's
Yeah, my favorite line was, "This guy will pay for everything."
Very good.
It worked well a few times.
It must have worked because you didn't start a war with saying the wrong thing or anything, as far as I know. So, and they let you leave the country, so that might have been good.
Yeah. So on the screen behind us, you'll see that that's the Pernik delegation that Pat and I met with, and it was U.S. Ambassador Rubin. That's his wife there, I believe, and the Minister of Culture, Anilia Slavova. And so that was our initial meeting at the City Hall. And Pat, you can do the next slide.
And this was a meeting in the City Hall, in the mayor's office, with us all dressed up for a lot of formal occasions that we had to attend. More formal occasions than we anticipated were going on there. You'll see here on the wall, this is where the mayor conducts their meetings, and in their Cyrillic alphabet, which is their most common way that they communicate their written language. And then in our way of communicating, they have on there the municipality of Pernik.
Okay.
And we thought that would be a good thing to show that particular thing with that on up there.
All right, the next slide. So, like Pat had said, there were many dinners that we were honored to be at. And this dinner here was with members of the European Carnival Cities Federation. So the reason why we went to the third weekend in January is because they have this huge festival, a concert and costumes and parades over a 3-day period. This was one of the dinners, and it is a festival city over in Europe and Middle East, as well as I believe Africa and a few other places. So that was the meeting of the officials welcoming Elk Grove to their dinner. So
And they have this every year. This
every year. Yep. So, and then the next slide is the traditional food, I believe.
And the food was great. I was wondering if I would like the food, and I loved it. In fact, loved it too much. Came back, gained a couple of pounds or more, but it was great. And they loved this homemade bread. We went to every place we went to, they had this big round loaves of bread, and in it was sausages inside. And what you do, their custom is to take the bread and pull a piece of it off and start eating it. And every event we went to, they also had goodies for you to eat. And if you didn't eat them, you would be insulting them. So you had to keep everything you went to, you had to eat and eat and eat. And I think our final full day we were there, we attended 3 dinners. Unbelievable. The last dinner we couldn't eat anything yet, but we at least tried to be polite about it, you know. And
bring a doggy back home?
I wish I could have, because it was good food. Every bit of it was really excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. So we next slide. We had little time. I had to check the crime reports. So it was very quiet in the city. Pat and I would go around, and we went over to the local store, and we bought some water and some cookies and stuff just to see if we could do it. And like I said, they loved us. We muddled through it, but we went through the store and had a good time as well. That's a poster you're seeing of the actual carnival. And here we are at the carnival site. Pat?
Yeah, the carnival was a lot of fun. It was really wild. There were far more people here than we even in any way anticipated. There were thousands of people, busloads came from country after country, all over the world actually, but mostly Southern Europe. It was the largest number. And they all came in different costumes, and some of these costumes were really far out, to put it mildly. Why do they wear these costumes? You know.
Yeah, so there was, they made of fur and bells, and basically it's the beginning of the year, and it's to dispel the evil spirits. So they're scaring away the evil spirits to bring you prosperity for the next year and good fortune. So it's almost like New Year's Eve there. So
the next like the one woman back there had the mustache painted on her. But she had a wig on.
Yeah, you saw men dressed as women, women dressed as men. You saw all kinds of crazy outfits.
Yeah.
There was one guy came up to us, was squirting at us their schnapps that they have. What's it called?
Rakia.
Rakia, trying to get us to get mouthfuls of it. I mean, you never knew what to expect.
Sure, you weren't in New Orleans.
It was kind of like that. Yeah, like the way I've heard it described.
Okay.
It was fun. we were made to feel so welcome by everybody. They treated us just terrifically.
Yeah, you can roll through. This is just some of the next couple slides are the actual parades. That's traditional outfits in the Bulgarian dress. Pat and I had been to many different things. A bonfire that they threw for one night for us. It was really well attended. There I am reading the local paper, making sure that, you know.
Yeah, as he was practicing his Bulgarian, he's reading the newspaper.
Yeah.
It almost looks
With
like
his
it's
hat
in a
on.
mirror.
Yeah, it does. This was an interesting picture here. The young man standing behind the Spider-Man balloon is a world-class Olympic wrestler and European. And when he found out we were from the U.S., he wanted to come over and meet Pat and I. And he brought his kids over there, and they were so happy to meet Americans. It was a very touching moment.
Man in uniform. That's what,
Yeah, and the lady to the left is the mayor of Perth. So.
she looks
And
familiar.
speaking of the man in uniform, when he was out there, in the events, when he was wearing his uniform, everybody ignored me. No one wanted to. It was all him. They wanted pictures with him. They wanted to stand with him everywhere we went.
Next time we're going to get you.
He
a
said, "I'm
uniform."
sorry, Pat, but I."
All right, we can roll on the next. Yeah, just some more of the concerts and the carnival atmosphere that you were at. A large bells to scare away evil spirits. This was the monastery.
The monastery.
Rila Monastery. So the Rila Monastery is, what was it, about 60 kilometers from the border of Greece.
Yeah,
And we went there on a brief period of time that we had.
up in the mountains.
Up in the mountains of Bulgaria. And this is the symbol of Bulgarian national identity, the most prominent monastery of the Bulgarian Orthodox Church. And it's, I think it's, 500 or 600 years old, maybe even older than that. And so we were in the monastery, and it was an honor to be there.
Uh-huh.
And speaking of dancing, there's Trustee Feicther there getting jiggy with the Bulgarians.
It's all women and him. What's going on?
Yeah, well, you know, they
so-
at these dances,
Yeah.
they would come around me and want me to get up and dance. I don't know. They had a thing. It wasn't hard to learn. It was you go 4 steps to the side and 2 back, 4 to the side, and eventually you make a complete circle, and they're playing music to it. Now, I don't have much of a sense of rhythm, but I still could sort of get into it. It was kind of fun. It was a nice time.
Yes, good time.
We're going to be showing your wife this tape.
Yeah. And there's Trustee Feicther playing the drum. He was beating some evil spirits away and bringing good fortune to Elk Grove Village. That's the monastery as well, again.
We were actually interviewed over there by the local television station. We were in their local newspapers, and the chief here was interviewed by a newspaper, I remember, that from another country, that they came in and asked you questions.
Yeah, slow.
So Elk Grove's name got spread a lot through this event, through us going there.
How many people live in what is it?
Pernick?
Pernick.
93,000.
93,000.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
so a little bit bigger than Elk Grove.
But I think the stat that Pat had mentioned earlier, outside of Pernick, there are more people living in this area
Okay.
from Bulgaria.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
So,
And the primary source of income for most of the people used to be coal mining there. We actually took this trip and we walked through this coal mine that had been there since the 1890s. And it must have been an awful place to work, terrible place to work. And we saw, as you walk through the coal mine, about every few decades of time, they would show how the machinery would change.
I gotcha.
How very primitive at the beginning, and then it got more and more advanced for the coal miners. And the mules had to stay in there. They used mules to help carry out the coal. And it was a hard life. And that's gone now. So we noticed that that's kind of made for a struggling economy with this city.
Now, Chief, do I understand you made friends with their police chief? Is the police chief there, or what do they call
So, interesting story. On Sunday, when we were talking to the U.S. ambassador, he had mentioned, did we check in with the capital in Sofia? Mm-hmm. And Pat and I said, well, we're really working with Pernick here, and we had not done that. And they said, oh, well, you should check in with Sofia, because they really love American officials and law enforcement. So the ambassador made a call. Pat and I had to get to the airport on Monday, but they diverted a trip for us to go meet the Minister of Interior, which is this plaque that he gave Pat and I, and asked us a few questions about American law enforcement. And it was interesting, the perception that he has of, because they have problems with what they call Roma gypsies in there, and they also have problems with internet crime like we do. So it was a nice dialogue we had. We were in there for, a couple hours chatting with him. It was filmed, and again, he's coming to Chicago, I believe, in June for the International Chiefs Conference. So I'm going to invite him out to Elk Grove and give him a tour of our city and the police department, and maybe have him do a ride-along.
Okay, it's always good to have friends. I know we did the same thing with Tammany.
Yeah.
He did a nice thing for us before we left. We got to the airport, and we had these two fellows that were head of security at the airport, and they helped us find a place so we could change out of our suits and his uniform into our travel stuff, and then they helped us get through the ticketing and through security and get us into a lounge area there, and they were treated us so well. It was just terrific. And that was typical of everywhere we went in Bulgaria. We were treated so well.
Oh.
Made to feel welcome. They all knew we were there and why we were there, and it was a good thing.
Well, it sounds like you guys had a great trip, and hopefully that'll come through, and we'll be able to have a good friendship with them, and then they can send another delegation here, hopefully in the summer.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to cover before?
No, I think that you've got a meeting set up downtown, I believe, that's...
We're going to, that as a continuation of this, we are going to be meeting with the Consul General in downtown Chicago, talk to him to see what other things we can do with this friendship agreement that we have, and what we're going to do in the future. My wife and I have kind of discussed the idea of taking a trip to Bulgaria maybe this summer, and visiting Pernik and going over to the Black Sea. I'm not sure we're going to do it, but we'll see. That's a possibility.
Great. Well, I thank you again, and for anyone who's interested, Pat and also I believe Chief Walsh will be making a presentation at the last board meeting in March about your trip. So if you want to learn more about the trip also, you can always watch the board meeting online, or when it replays on EGTV. So I thank you guys both for coming. It sounds like you had a good time. Maybe we can send you a time when it's a little bit warmer there. Or then again, it was warmer than it was here, so you're lucky. So thank you again for both coming, and it was a great story.
Thank you, Trustee Frank.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this.
Well, welcome back to our program, everyone. I'm very happy to introduce to you our next guest. Seated next to me today is Ben Curcio. Did I say your last name correctly? So happy to meet you, Ben. You are the new director of the Elk Grove Park District.
Yes.
And you have such an interesting story to tell us about how you arrived at this position, because the Elk Grove Park District isn't totally new to you. As I understand, you have some history with the organization.
So it dates back to when the pavilion was new.
And that's going back, what do we say?
25 years.
Is that how long the pavilion's been there?
Yes. And I started as an intern. And
so you worked at that building. That was your first exposure to the Park District?
Yes. So I was an intern. I did my internship there in it would be the fall, spring of, 94, 95.
Going back, yeah.
Yeah.
And what department?
So I was a recreation major, recreation administration. So I worked for Paul Swanson. He was my, intern. You call it like he's your intern facilitator, and I worked for him. And then I worked in varying departments. I worked for Matt Conti, who was the athletic coordinator at the time, and Marge Hart, who is still around.
Dear Marge, yeah.
Right. So
Marge, she's a fixture in our community.
Right.
Yeah.
So I worked for both of those two for the internship, and then I ended up working for Marge for about 9 months after my internship. Doing various things like open gyms for teens, you name it, teen band jams, whatever she needed me to do, I was there to help her out. So.
Well, that's the kind of basic foundation you would want to
Yes.
obtain the position you now have. Now, does Mr. Paul Swanson, does he know what you've achieved? At the
No,
you have not told him?
No, and I don't actually know how to get a hold of him, but
I think he'd be super
I think he's
proud.
still around. I
Yeah.
think he's actually manages or oversees or owns a farm. But I have
Marge
not.
must be super excited
Yes,
too.
yes, I would think
to
so.
see, it's like you think, oh, I nurtured, this is my
Right.
kind of my child. So after working in the pavilion, then where did you make your way?
So after my internship, I actually worked for the golf course for a month or two. And then from there, I went on to work for a sports camp. This is all in Elk Grove.
Yeah.
And then I did, like I said, I worked with Marge Hart for the remainder of that year. And then I moved on and got a full-time job with the Barrington Park District.
Oh, you
And-
moved over there.
Yeah, so the Barrington Park District, I started that position back, in '95. And that's kind of how I started my career. And I was at the Barrington Park District for 12 years. I was an athletic coordinator there, a facility supervisor, and then I worked my way up there, which is similar to what I've done here at Elk Grove.
Sure.
But I was the, like I said, athletic coordinator at Barrington for many years, ran basketball camps, basketball leagues, just all kinds of sports programming. Got a chance to oversee the pool operations, fitness center operations, and really started to develop my experience in my career.
So in the back of your mind, you always had a goal, like if ever the opportunity arises, boy, I'd sure like to be the head person.
So that's always a career goal of mine.
Yeah.
Way back when I was an intern, I started taking courses in Masters of Public Administration. So my ultimate goal was to be in this position someday, and so it's kind of cool to see my whole career come full circle, so to speak.
Yes.
So it's very exciting.
What would you say is the main draw to the Elk Grove Fitness, not just the fitness center, but the entire park district? I mean, if you want to just brag, what would
Well,
you
having
brag?
been the parks director for the last 7-8 years and been involved, obviously I think our parks are
Super.
some of the best out
And
there.
how many do we have in the community?
We have 43 parks. So we take pride. We have a great staff. We take a lot of pride in our parks and maintaining them at the highest standard. And then our facilities. I think our facilities match many of the larger park districts in the area. And so Jack A. Clay's Pavilion is something to be proud of. And
I think, yeah.
we've done some renovations the last few years to bring it back up to what I call modern. But that's a great facility, and the Al Hattendorf Center and
the water park.
and obviously the
Out
Rainbow
is,
Falls Water Park is
and the water facilities at the pavilion,
Yes.
pretty top. And then we have our little, I always call it our little Disneyland in Elk Grove Village, our little Pirates Cove, which
yes,
draws
it's
so
a
many
jewel, and
people,
it's a very
you know?
unique.
Really?
Well, Pirates Cove there's nothing else like it
Really?
around here, so it's very unique, and we still get a great draw of people there
Mm-hmm.
every summer. So it's been fantastic for the residents.
And they
you
serve
know,
the younger people, but yet I just heard someone last week come up and tell me, boy, I went over to the senior center. They had a dance last week, and it was so fun, and not enough people know about it with the live band. Everybody got a little dressed up like it was prom time again. So serving all age groups.
Right. The senior center is fantastic, and they really do a lot of good events for the seniors. The dance that you're referring to is so well received and so important because it's not just programming for
Sure.
youth; it's programming all the
All
way
around.
up to the adults
Right.
and the seniors too.
Yeah.
So.
So this is very exciting, Ben, but tell us now, what are your goals? What do you see for the Elk Grove Park District in the future?
So obviously, we like to keep our parks and facilities at a high level. So maintaining those levels of standard are important. So that's always going to be a goal. We have some new properties that we came into purchase, was Chelmsford property. So a decision at some point of what we're going to do with that property needs to be made. So a goal would be to complete a master plan, which we are looking at this year to do that, which is very important. We do that about every 6 or 7 years. And that kind of guides us into what facilities or parks we want to renovate, or if there's new programming or new parks that residents have interest in having us build, or because back in 2015 or 16 we did a resident survey, so we have a lot of good input from that. So So my goals are, always to offer progressive, innovative parks programs and continue improving what we have, which is fun, and that's why I like doing what I do.
Top rated, to be sure. I'm a little partial, being also employed by the Park District on a part-time basis, but indeed, it's just a park district you can be very proud of.
Right, absolutely.
And the actual interview process to obtain this position, is it pretty tough?
Yeah, so...
What did you think of it?
Well, it's grueling only because it should be. They want to make sure they get the right person.
Position.
So the board put us, had 4 to 6 interviewees, and we had to come back a few times, and the interviews were an hour, 2 hours long. And they asked a lot of questions, about the park district, about your philosophies, and things like that. And so they really did their due diligence.
Well, I don't know who the other candidates were, but I believe they made the right choice in selecting Ben.
I do too.
And I can feel your enthusiasm for this. What is right now that is probably occupying most of your time? We're just becoming familiar with all the departments and bringing them up to date, or?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. So right now, it's really kind of getting back into, now I oversee the whole organization. So before, when I was the parks director, I was focused on parks, and facility maintenance. So now it's really bringing into the whole picture everything. So I have great staff, and starts with Tammy and Brad Scholes, who's Director of Finance, and Tammy, Director of Leisure Services, and then on down with superintendents, and then all the coordinators we have and all the maintenance. So I have good relationships with a lot of them. Now it's just find out if they have needs, do they need help, because we do offer a lot of good programs, and it's just really kind of evaluating as we go, and really if we have needs, let's look at that. And so that's kind of what I've been focused on right now. Is that's going to probably change or evolve as we go, but yeah, that's really been my focus.
That's just a wonderful story. When you received, was it a phone call?
Actually,
it was an email saying you got the job?
I met with John Walsh. He's our president of the board.
So you were told to come in for me. I'm just kind of trying to imagine what that feeling was like when you thought, I wonder if.
So he called me probably the next day after the second interview and asked me to meet him at, it's not Panera, it's the other coffee shop. I can't think of it.
Starbucks.
Starbucks. And a little plug out there for Starbucks. And so
it will always hold a special place in your heart.
Right. So he asked me to come meet him, and he gave me the good news that they've want to offer me the position. And from there I was.
Did
pretty
everybody
excited.
In the coffee shop hear that?
No.
First,
we were pretty. We were by ourselves in the area, but it was very exciting to hear that. Those are some words that you want to hear in your life.
What a story to think. Everybody should be aware to think grassroots here. You start, you really learn the different departments. When the opportunity arose, then you could come with so much experience and kind of connections. I think that's important because you really knew something about the organization that you were applying for.
Right, and I've always had a near and dear, obviously, to my heart is Elk Grove Park District, having done my internship here.
Sure.
It's your first taste of the industry you want to get involved in, and obviously the proactiveness of Jack Clay's back in the day to move the pavilion and build the pavilion. And just the foresight to do that set the groundwork for this community.
Look
as far
what
as
can happen when you set
so it's
your
very
goals.
Exciting.
Yeah, I think you should be a speaker at schools or university. Look, take your passion, start at the bottom, really get to learn the organization, and the opportunity just might.
Yeah. Well, and I think you just never know, right? You never know. As an intern, I'm thinking, okay, I got a long history or a long time, in this field, and then all of a sudden you have an opportunity. So always take advantage of your opportunities. That's for sure.
Yes, for sure. And I'm so happy to meet my new boss.
I'm happy to meet you too. So.
Very happy to meet you. And please, if you ever have any free time, and I don't know how much you'll have now, but everybody
always
can
make time for fun.
Fun and for a good workout.
Yes.
So don't forget. The best fitness center in the area is Pavilion Fitness.
Yes, absolutely.
So be sure to stop by, and we'll look to see you over there, Ben. May I call you Ben?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for being here, and lots of best wishes.
Thank you.
in taking
glad to
our
be
park
here.
district even beyond where it is now.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And we will be right back with the rest of the program. Well, that was an interesting story your guest had to tell.
Unbelievable. They had such a good time there. They met a lot of new friends. And
How come you didn't get selected to go?
You know what?
Next
actually,
time.
Actually, that week I had to go to Buffalo and get stuck in a blizzard there, but at least it was in the United States and not in the snow and the cold they had in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
But they had a great time, new friends.
New friends, that's what it was about.
And they'll look forward to maybe growing a friendship with them, and maybe we can share some commerce.
And speaking of growing, that's what we look for Ben to do with our park district. I mean, it's always stood out, in my opinion and many others, as one of the finest park districts
Sure is.
around. I mean, we have everything, and now we're excited as to the next step where Ben will take it. So it's a pleasure to meet him and introduce him to the residents in our community.
I'm sure he'll do a great job. We're
Yeah.
all counting on him.
Yeah. So it was good to be with you today, Jeff.
You
Don't
too.
be a stranger.
Try not to.
Okay.
We'll try to make it at the same time.
Enjoy spring and summer. And
You
to
too.
everyone out there, we thank you for being with us once again on In the Grove.
Thanks for watching.